Making my own casting slip. Casting slip comes pre-made in liquid form, or you can buy the dry bags and mix it yourself. But you need a mixer like this. And it's a huge pain in the ass, but I wanted to do it just to see how crazy it is, and plus you save money by mixing it yourself, especially if your store that you get your clay from doesn't have a lot of slip. I needed a lot of slip, so I decided to learn how to mix my own. It's a pretty crazy process. You gotta follow the directions to the T and make sure you're not putting too much of a certain chemical or whatever in there to ruin the whole batch. Most people think that you can, slip is kind of like just watered down clay. You add water to some clay, stir it up, pour it in your mold. Well, that's not true. There's actually some chemicals involved that help suspend those clay particles in the water, so they don't just fall to the bottom of the bucket when you're making slip. The scary part is if you add too much of something like this deflocculant, it will do the reverse of thinning it down. It'll actually make it thicker and totally unusable. So that sucks. You gotta really pay attention to how much you're putting in a little bit at a time. And there's other stuff involved too, like soda ash, barium carbonate, that kind of take out the impurities. There's all kinds of weird stuff probably inside the dry mix of slip, like wood chips or weird things that come from the ground that don't belong in there and will probably not fire right. So now I'm just mixing up the soda ash and the barium carbonate in some warm water, and you add this to the water mix first before you start adding all of the clay. Turn that thing on, start mixing it. And now it's time for the dirty work. Start adding the dry bag of clay to the water as it's mixing. You can see all that dust and stuff puffing up. You have to wear a really good respirator for this, or that'll just kill your lungs. And I tried to slowly get it in there, because if you kind of just dump it in there, it probably won't mix very well. And after you get that first bag in there, you have to put in just a little bit of the deflocculant in there at a time. When you put the clay in there, it kind of looks thick, and then when you put that deflocculant in there, it thins it out so it mixes better. And then you just put the next bag in, and after that next bag, you put a little bit more of that liquid deflocculant in. That chemical just thins it out, makes it so it mixes better. It's pretty wild how it works, because it might look really super thick and really crazy in there, and then as soon as you add a little bit of that liquid, it thins it out like that. You can kind of see it thinning out, mixing up a little bit better. And that's just 2 bags. I got 1 more bag to go. This is the last bag out of 3. It starts getting really chunky now, and I was having a hard time mixing, so I had to kind of use a stick to mix it up a little bit. But now, after a few hours, I check it out, and it's mixing pretty well and looking nice and liquidy. After mixing it up for hours, I can pour some of it out for testing. Kind of have to let it sit for 24 hours before you do all the testing, but pretty much weigh it out and do some calculations and see what the weight is. Now, after it all said and done, and you have to filter it out with a sieve to make sure that there's no impurities in there. There's these little black specks. We don't want those in there, so I have to take the time to take them out before I really start casting and using this slip. It's pretty good looking. I put it in my my table to start casting some mugs. And now I started casting some mugs using this new slip. The mugs came out pretty good. I'm happy with the way the slip has come out, but I'll probably ultimately know how well it is when I fire and glaze it. Thanks for watching, guys.